What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be checking out Terraformers. Terraformers is a game where you are doing exactly what it says on the tin. Terraforming is kind of a hot subject right now, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of terraforming games coming out, and I think there's a reason for that. I think that terraforming games kind of represent this very predictable and sort of visible path to progress. Like, you can see what's happening as you do things iteratively, and you get like instantaneously that audio visual feedback. And so anyways, I think this is very, very fertile ground for game design, and honestly I think there's a lot of companies capitalizing on it. The developers of this game, this is their first title, and the best way that I know how to describe it so as to set your expectations at the proper level is that this is a really slick, really polished, really pretty board game that is in early access, basically. This is effectively a digital board game that has a lot of visual flair and a lot of pretty things, but at the end of the day, if you've played a lot of board games, you will recognize kind of the fact that, oh, this is a single-player board game, just from the structure and the way that it plays out. So today we're going to check the game out for about 25-35 minutes. A quick reminder, this is in early access, so this game is not done. However, the developers do have a roadmap right here that has been added on in. We are right here. This is a beautiful little roadmap, and it looks like they are headed towards full release. There's no real time scale on any of this stuff right here, but they've already got it plotted out, so I've got a pretty strong feeling that they're going to adhere to that. Typically, the companies that don't like follow through on early access are usually the ones that don't have a roadmap or a plan. The ones that do have the roadmap, that means that they've got it all kind of laid out in front of them already, and they're already designing the game with thought to the things that are coming on later, which is usually a good sign for a speedy resolution. So I guess we will find out. If you wanted to get this game, you wanted to get the early access, it's available down below in the description. On top of that, you can also take a look down there, and you will find a link to my Twitch stream and my Discord. I am planning on streaming this game at some point because I wanted to put some hours into it. Like, I wanted to do like a long binge session because I did enjoy my time, but I don't know what day that's going to happen on. So your best bet's probably going to be just to pop into the Discord and ask if I've got it on the schedule yet or whatever. Let's start a new game, and I'm going to do my best to get you acclimated. This is a very simple game that I think readily tries to capitalize on the idea of like one more turn. A small first step for colonists, but a giant leap for mankind. The shuttle has landed, and your people are ready to settle on the red planet. Very nice. We're not going to finish that entire dialogue blurb. I've learned that if I spend too much time like reading paragraphs and paragraphs of text, then we don't actually get to the game. And so anyways, we start out with 50 power, 29 food, 10 water, and 5 titanium. We've started out with a greenhouse farm, and we've started out with a habitation module. This is the game. Right here. Ooh, we're in southern Samaria. Samaria is a harsh place, a bloody place, a place where Crom's will extends across the craters and crags. So anyways, we've started out in New Maputo. That's a really unfortunate name. Nuevo Maputo. Okay, all right, fair enough. There we go. I renamed it. I can't look at Maputo for the entire game. I just can't do it. So we've got Splatistan over here. Really, the general idea of the game is that there is an entire grid that is encompassing this planet. Your goal is to explore the grid. When you explore different tiles, you can explore one tile per turn until later, where different things happen that allow you to explore multi-tiles. But for right now, you explore a tile per turn, you get the resources that are written on the tile, and then you can build a mine there to continue exploiting it, or you can use it for other things. For right now, the first thing that we need to do is we need to pick our leader. Basically, your leader is elected on like a couple-year cycle, and your leaders will flare up and retire, and you've basically got to make the best use of their abilities that you possibly can while they're available. And so anyways, on our first turn here, we've got Jorge Dromedo. Jorge has a lot of mining stuff. Basically, he's like a civil engineer, effectively. His abilities down here, he can explore. He's got earthworks that allows us to destroy a lot of rocks. We've got modular apartments. If modular apartments are connected to each other, it makes people happy. And honestly, the fundamental antagonist of this game is not going to be the red planet itself as of right now, because like crises and disasters haven't really been implemented. Like, those are later on in the roadmap. Really what you're going to be contending with in this game is public opinion. So the people that are moving to Mars, they have an opinion of you, and over time they're going to expect more and more and more out of you, and if you don't deliver, you end up basically being kicked to the curb and thrown off a cliff. And so that's really the fundamental way that the game experiences its loss criteria, is that if you lose the faith of the people. He's got an ability called Rural Construction, so constructing regional buildings costs 15% less resources. Not really going to be that helpful because we're kind of in a setup phase right now. We also have Exploration, so Thomas Foster, it looks like he's an explorer. So we've got Explore, we've got Mine Resources, so if we already have a deposit discovered, we can mine it for 5 of that resource. That's a very, very useful ability. However, it's going to cost power when we do that. He's also got the ability to make a supply station, which is an out-city building that allows you to do exploration missions. But I fiddled around with it, but after a bunch of turns, like nothing really ever happened with it, and so I'm not exactly sure how that mechanic works. But I have had him as a leader before, and I did deploy the supply station, but like there was no ping or pop-up or whatever. It's possible that I just missed it while I was playing on through, now that the game's been out for a little bit. I'm sure someone will correct me. I actually recorded this video about a week and a half ago, but my hard drive went out on me, so I lost it. So this is technically a re-record right now. I know, the peak of professionality. Only in Splattercatland. The game is procedural. You never know what resources are going to be around you. That's part of the challenge of the game, is that you've got to sort of like roll with the punches. Like, I've had really, really good maps that were easy peasy and took me almost no effort whatsoever. I've had really, really rough maps where I just can't seem to get the things that I need nonstop, and I'm like always playing from behind the 8-ball. The difficulty of this game seems to swing. Like, you never quite know what you're gonna get. So let's go ahead and let's go into Splatistan. So Splatistan, we've already cleared out all the rocks. What we want to do is we sort of want to eyeball what's connected. This is actually a really bad layout. So these little paddocks right here, each one of these little foundations is a place where we can put a building. I was hoping for something that would be more interconnected. With some places you'll find one where there's a connector here and a connector here, and all these connectors are the same, and like, foof. That's a money grid right there. Like, that's something you can do a lot with, because this game capitalizes on adjacency a lot. A lot of buildings benefit or give bonuses for being adjacent. So having a map like this where it's basically like a disconnected ring that just goes around the edge, it's really, really bad. It means we're going to miss out on a lot of stuff, but it's okay. We'll get more bases. Let's go ahead, and for right now, the two spots that are, well, so there's really only one spot that's like two spots that's really, really good. So this spot is good, this spot is good. So we want to kind of keep those clear. Let's go ahead and plant our headquarters. My headquarters is going to be in the corner because nothing really benefits from the headquarters. So, like, I don't really worry about it. I usually just plop it on whatever the least valuable tiles are, just like I do with power cards. So anyways, we've got enough water right now to where we can get a greenhouse farm going. I would recommend that we do that. Don't worry too much about your placement. If you mess up your placement, it's not that big of a deal. I promise. You can move the buildings around. Every single building is modular, and you can just click this button right here and move it. It takes one turn, but like you can rearrange your entire city if you need to, so long as you've got a few empty slots to kind of like sideline things. And frequently I do, and it hasn't really had any catastrophic effects so far, so I figure that it's worth doing. Let's go ahead and explore. I think for exploration, what I'd like to do is let's get some tritium and some nitrates. The resource perception has found tritium and nitrates. Very nice. So we've got 4 and 3. And obviously there's lots of beautiful title card art right here for a lot of the places that you're going to be exploring and whatnot. In fact, I think what the game does very, very well is its art design. The game is so slick, in fact, that it almost jumps the shark and becomes too slick and gets like a Mobily vibe. But luckily it avoids that. You'll see what I mean once we grow our population. Like, the city will begin to extend into the background, and it actually upgrades that background card right there in order to make it look like this little paddock that you're building up has, like, burgeoned basically a sprawling society around it, which is pretty cool. So for the UI, we've got our victory progress right here. This is how far away we are from, like, winning this phase of the game. This is public perception. If it drops down to 0, bad things happen. You lose the game. However, we've got, like, a +1 for the moment, so everything's fine. We have our resources over here. We've got everything from food to electricity to research to water to nitrates to silicates to titanium and tritium. This is the trade interface right here. We don't have any trade routes for right now going back to Earth, so it doesn't matter. We've got our leader panel over here. You click on this button to explore. You click on this to mine resources from a location that you've explored. And then this is for his supply station deployment. We'll probably want to do that somewhere near his last turn as boss. Over here is the terraforming progress of the planet. Honestly, I didn't really... So I played the game for about 3 hours prior to recording this. And I never really felt like terraforming was a priority. I'll be honest with you, like terraforming in this game... So it seemed to be, so if you take like Planet Crafters, for example, which is another terraforming game, in Planet Crafters, it felt like terraforming was the point because the things you unlock were they're directly related to the terraforming progress that you've made on the planet. Like you can't unlock new things unless you're actively trying to terraform. In this game, it doesn't really seem to matter. I spent most of the game trying to keep people happy and generally just managing my budget. And like if I had time, I slapped down a building that would work on terraforming. But there was really no onus, or there was really no pressure to complete any of the terraforming objectives. It was really never a thing that the game seemed to press me on. What it did press me on was keeping the population happy. Like, that seems to be mostly the focus here. We'll go on to the next turn. I very much like the turn swap animation right there with the sun going around and, like, the dark side of the planet rotating. I think it looks good, and I think it definitely exemplifies what the game is going for. It's been a year. So what we can do right now is I would recommend at the beginning of every turn, so here's the structure of the game. We did our last turn. You basically get to play cards if you have enough of the resources in order to deploy those buildings. The cards introduce the randomness that makes the game replayable. Or if when the cards come up at the beginning of your turn and you don't want any of these buildings, you can discard them to get a free science. You basically use your leader ability and then you move on to the next turn. Really, in the beginning of the game, most turns are like 3 or 4 clicks and then just on to the next turn. It's pretty rapid fire. For right now, we've got the option of a laboratory, which generates science. We've got a tritium thermogenerator that generates power. However, if it's adjacent to a population center, we get a minus to happiness. And then we have a greenhouse farm. I'm going to take the greenhouse farm because I personally very much like to focus on getting like +5, +6 food about as soon as possible so that I'm never kind of hard gated on how much I can grow my towns and cities. We do have enough to drop our first place where people live. And I would recommend that we do that. So in fact, we're going to design this area over here to be our population center. And as you can see, this raised our population by 1. At the top of your town management right here, you basically have the population of your city. Every time the population of your city grows, you get to claim a tile on the world map out here as your tile. So if we wanted to, we could claim that tritium deposit right now, and then we could put a mine on top of it so that we're getting +1 tritium per turn. But anyways, you are also going to have your building and location count on this side. You've got the general happiness and support that you're getting from the community per turn. You've got the comfort of the city. That depends on the temperature and the oxygen and also the services that you provide. So having like hospitals and police forces and recreation areas and stuff like that will raise the comfort. And then this stuff is all just like how much oxygen do we have? Is our wiener getting irradiated every single time we step outside? Those sorts of questions that need to be sorted out. We are going to need more water to get that done. So I think we should explore over here. And that will give us some water and some tritium. And then we get to claim one of these tiles. Oh, there's actually not a deposit there. That's kind of a bummer. Okay, well, I'll probably hold on to my extra expansion tile then until I find a spot that, like, I'm satisfied with and I know I want to mine it. Fair enough. Next turn. We've got another habitation module. I definitely think we probably want that, so I'm not even going to look at the other options, because with my early settlement, I like to get my population up. Like, I like to get it up and claim, like, everything around me in a circle. We've got pretty bad tiles so far compared to my last playthrough. We've got no titanium to be spoken of whatsoever. We have some nitrates, which means we may want to focus on nitrate farming, but we do also have water available, so it's not really completely and totally necessary. Let's go ahead and mine over here and see if we can find a water deposit. We did indeed find an aquifer, but that aquifer is on a high plateau. And so high plateaus are very, very useful for power generation buildings. So when you get outbuildings that are like solar panels or like wind power arrays, if you put them on upraised areas, they double their output, which makes them like incredibly useful. So I'd be a little bit hesitant about putting something as simple and rudimentary as a water pump on top of that when I could get 2 power out of it later on in the game. It just kind of feels like maybe it would be short-sighted, possibly. Let's keep going. Earth has established a permanent trade route with us. With regular traffic between the two planets, we can expect the colony to burgeon and grow as long as we make the journey worthwhile for the Earthborn travelers. There you go. So we've unlocked the trade menu, which effectively lets us swap one resource for another one resource every single turn. And if you've got launch pads all over the planet, it will increase that number. We can make a lab, we can make a habitation module, or we can make a greenhouse farm. Let's focus on the farms for right now. I'd like to get the farms up and running. I need to close the trade panel too. It's kind of taking up too much space right now. We've got a little bit more water, and we've got some silicates over here. And while we were there, our team found a batch of supply crates. So that's given us 10 free food. Very, very nice. I'll take that as well. And this is also a high plateau. I think we've gotten some good tiles, and we've gotten some bad tiles now, actually. I'm kind of changing my mind about the way this is going. Like, I think we're going to have to kind of, like, use our wiggle room to make it all work, but I think it's going to be all right. To increase their prestige, 3 corporations are offering to set up a trade route and supply a city of your choice with a valuable resource. We can only pick one. So we can get Titan Polymers. They'll give us nitrates. We have Wayland Incorporated. They'll give us silicates. And we've got Edison Fund. They'll give us tritium. I was hoping that our first big corporate infusion would have titanium in there somewhere, because thus far we're basically destitute when it comes to titanium, and a lot of buildings require titanium. So I don't know what the plan is for right now, but I'm gonna take the silicates, I think, because sometimes I feel like I have a lot of trouble getting silicates a lot of the time. With the buildings, we've got ourselves another lab, another habitation module, and we've got ourselves a tritium thermo generator. I'm gonna take the habitation module because I have plans and things I want to do with this area, and so I'm going to try to do those things. For right now, let's use our expansion. We're going to claim this tritium deposit, and we are going to not slap anything on it because I want to save my titanium for now. I'm hoping... Hey, we found a titanium deposit over here. Good. I need that titanium, and I need it very, very badly. We got 6 silicates out of there, actually. That's good. I'll probably have him... Oh, it's a silicate deposit. I thought it was going to be a titanium deposit. Ugh, okay, I'm less excited. Weak. Okay, never mind. Man, we have, like, no titanium around. We're having to go a long, long way to get titanium. For every step out that you are from your base, it costs you more power to explore and more power to mine. And so I was hoping I would have kind of one of each resource within 2 steps of our base. That way, after exploration, I could use his special ability to basically farm a whole bunch of the stuff that I know in the metagame to be valuable. It's not going to go like that, though. It's not going to go like that. Let's go ahead and get another farm down. We'll go ahead and plop a farm, like, right there. That looks good to me. And now we've got +2 food, so that's going to make things go a little bit quicker. To help with our exploration efforts, Earth delivered an array of exploration satellites to the Martian orbit. Nice. Every 3 turns, that allows us to double explore, in case you were wondering what that does. I think, so we've got public baths right here. I think public baths with our layout is a really, really, really good idea. In fact, I think it's a really solid idea, because what we can do here is we get +2 happiness for every adjacency. We can put the public baths right there, and then we put a population on each side of it. That'll give us like a +6. That feels pretty fortuitous to me, because over time, we're going to start getting malices or like negatives or like debuffs to our happiness generation, inevitably pushing us towards 0, basically, and forcing you to kind of like aggressively adapt. I need a titanium mine. There we go. We've got our titanium mine. I'm going to use his ability because he's going to retire soon, because I need to farm up some titanium to last us for posterity. Like, there's just no way around it. So while that was a little bit expensive on power, it gave us 20 titanium to play around with, which I think, like, in the long term is going to be very, very helpful. We can use this satellite every 3 turns. You typically want to use it for places that are too far away for you to get to with the buggies. That tends to be the most efficient way to use it, but it's up to you. As time goes by, your people start having higher expectations of life on Mars. There you go. So now we're officially negative. We can take the tuber farm right here. We do have a new building called the Marsha. What the Marsha does is it makes an entire city immune to radiation and radiation problems while increasing your population, but it costs 5 titanium and 30 food instead of just the 30 food. So it's one of those things that you got to kind of think about. But a Marsha is really, really nice. They can help out quite a lot. We're going to take the tuber farm instead because we've got lots of nitrates and things around, so I'm not that worried about it. At the moment, what I'd like to do is I wanted to get my water up so I can get the public baths going. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll get our 5 water from right there. And then I don't really have exploration right now, so there's not much I can do there. But he's going to retire soon. Hey, we've got ourselves our first windmill. So anything that's a red card is going to be something that you play on an empty tile that's outside your base. Anything that's a blue card plays inside of a city. Actually, we may be better off. So the public baths, they give us 5. Surrounded by 3, we get +2, so it gives total of 11. This guy right here gives us +3, but it costs a lot less. It's much less expensive, is my thinking. I'm going to take the windmill. And then what we'll do is we will deploy... Do I own this? I don't own that. Okay. Ownership is hard. So I need 14 water. And I need 14 water, like, fairly soon, actually. We're going to go ahead and we're going to mine this aquifer again. The closer I can get to that water, the happier I will be. Next turn, we can use our satellite again, so everything's going to be okay. We've got a robot hub. Robots are kind of an interesting mechanic in this game. Basically, robots will increase your location count, but they don't count as population with respect to generating support. So basically, they give you the benefit of population when it comes to expansion, but they do not give you the benefit of population when it comes to happiness. So anyways, we've got to pick our cards right here. We've got to get a robot hub or something else. So a robot hub is actually kind of an interesting building in this game because robots count as humans when it comes to increasing your population. So they basically increase your expansion slots like humans would, but they don't provide any of the happiness bonuses that a human would. And so if you're trying to like recklessly expand an area and just grab everything, you can actually fully automate it if you're not worried about happiness bonuses. But I don't think I'm going to take the robot hub for right now. We have another habitation module, or we have another greenhouse farm. I don't want any of those, and my hand is getting kind of full. So I'm just going to take the science boost. Some characters do give you even more of a boost for skipping cards and whatnot. Like, you'll get, like, certain leaders that are scientists, and you'll get a bunch of science for, like, bypassing rolls and stuff, and that can be really, really helpful. For right now, we've got enough for another farm, so I think we'll dive on in here. And I'll probably do just that, I think. It's going to cost me 10 water, though, and I did want to get that entertainment center down, or I wanted to get the public baths down, because it makes life a little simpler. So maybe what we'll do instead is we'll use a satellite to explore for water pretty far out. That gave us 2 water, 3 silicates, and 3 titanium, so that's fine. We still haven't found an alternate location for another base either, so we'll want to work on that at some point. We're going to put the public bath down right there, and as you can see, that totally fixed our happiness problem, so that should hold us for another 10 or 15 turns or so. We still have an exploration available. My thought is we continue to mine this water right here, because that's such a useful ability for rapid expansion. That's why I like this guy in the early game, is because he allows you to get tons of water to get, your food base set up. Let's go ahead and move over, and it looks like to increase their prestige. Okay, so we've got offers from 3 more corporations right now. We're a little bit low on tritium, and we're a little bit low on nitrates. I'm going to take the tritium for the moment. And then over here, we can pick between another windmill. We've got a courthouse. That raises the comfort of living inside of our city. So that can be kind of nice. That takes some of the penalties off. We've also got a massive radio telescope. And so that would allow us to use an empty slot in order to generate more science. It gives us +2 science if we put it on a high location. I will probably take that just because we do have a lot of high locations around us, and I think that'll work out pretty well for us in the long term. The final thing that I wanted to do is we will go for... Man, we're getting kind of far out right now. Let's go ahead and we will take the tritium, the nitrates, and the water over here. Yeah, 5 nitrates, 3 tritium, 2 water. Okay, and we found some more food, which is actually great, because that means I can put in another habitation module right there, which is going to raise our population one more time, which means that I can officially, we'll grab that mine right there for tritium. So now we've got +1 tritium coming in every single turn. We have what we need in order to put down the massive radio telescope. I need to control this first, though. So we'll put that right there. And so now we have 2 science per turn coming on in, which is great because a lot of the advanced buildings require just an absolute ton of science in this game. Like, you're going to need a lot of it. And so I think we're off to a pretty good start. Like, I'm happy with the way things are laid out. Our leader is retiring, so we got to pick a new leader. We've got ourselves Tariq Fayed. Tariq Fayed is basically, he has a background in security. He's an ex-soldier, basically. So he allows you to build a special building called the police station, which just flatly makes any city that it's inside of more comfortable. He's got an overwork option where he can basically oppress the population to double their output, if I recall correctly. But it will lower happiness by 5 per population, so it's going to hurt. And then his exploration is the same as everybody else. Our water production, he can boost that if we have water, but we don't, and so that ability is going to kind of go to waste. We also have Gustav Merzoyan, and he's an engineer, and look at this drip right now, dude. Look at this drip. My man's got the undershirt that matches the J's. He's got like the two-tone reflective vest, jacket, whatever you want to call it. Merzoyan got the drip. But anyways, I'm going to take him because he's got a special ability that allows us to generate 5 power for free instead of exploring, which is fantastic. We've been spending a lot of power lately, and we're going to spend a lot more power. And so I'd like to generate some electricity. He's also got an ability called Applied Research. It allows you to effectively, if you don't get cards you want at the beginning of your turn, you can bypass them, get 2 more cards, and you get +3 to science with those +2 cards. And so it's pretty good. And then he's also got advanced machine learning, where you get science production for every 7 robots that you build during his tenure. So I'm going to go ahead and tell him to bloodwalk his way on up to Mars, and he's going to be our new leader. We got another robot hub, we got another habitation module, and we've got a soil factory. The soil factory, adjacent food producers get a +1. We want that. That's going to be really, really helpful if we can get our nitrates up to a point where they are going to be enough to necessitate that, because then we can move our headquarters, which I'll do right now. We can move our headquarters over to here, and we can move this building over to here. And we can move that building over to there. And then we can put the soil factory, I think. Does it have to be adjacent? Yeah, it has to be adjacent. Okay. So we put in another farm right there, and then we put in the soil factory, and then we'll have +6 food generation, which means that every 5 turns we can put in a new habitation module and increase our population. I think that that's a solid plan. I think that's definitely going to get us moving. For right now, I'm going to use his ability to get +5 power, and then we'll go on to the next turn. Donlay Group, one of the big players in the food industry, offers to set up a high-tech food lab. We can get the adjacent food buildings give +1 food, and it gives you science as well. So it acts as a research facility on top. Basically, it's a soil factory that also generates research. However, this may come with consequences later on down the line for kind of cozying up to this corporate donor. So you can also turn it down and get +50 support. I'm going to take the lab because it's a rare building that only comes up like once per playthrough. The brine electrolyzer is a no-brainer right here. What this does is it gives you +2 support for every building that consumes water. And guess what? All of our farms consume water. So we definitely want that right there. That's going to be great. Our satellite is up and running. So ideally, I want to go to a location that has both nitrates and water. There we go. 2 nitrates, 2 water, 27 of our support. And then this is a specialized location where we can build a new city. So if we had 30 food and a bunch of, I think, titanium or water or something, we could build another city right there. I don't remember the specific resources we're going to need. This one right here is another water mine. I'm going to go ahead and explore that. There we go. So we've got lots of water, and we're getting there for the soil factory. With the water that we have, though, we want to build this guy right here. We do have a tuber farm, but I need the nitrates in order to get the soil factory going, so I think I'm just going to sit on it for right now. Scientists are making progress in adapting life to Martian conditions through bioengineering. They have been experimenting with different genetic variations now present or now present you with their 2 most promising candidates. Which of these life forms should they create? So we've got Methajonos or whatever. It gives +1 heat. It gives us prestige. And then we get a bacteria spreader for 20 science. And then we've also got Dinosaurus or whatever. That gives us atmosphere. In my experience, temperature tends to have more bonuses than atmosphere in the early game. I might be totally wrong about that, but that's been my experience. I don't want the launch pad or the delivery drones. Don't really care about the habitation module. So I'm just going to skip it for the science so that we can get up to maybe the Donley lab or whatever for a different place. We are going to need more nitrates and more water. We do have a nitrate. There's nitrates and water right there. We'll just go ahead and grab that. Perfect. 3 nitrates, 2 water. And then this is another location where we can build a city. Very nice. We haven't been getting a lot of +10s, unfortunately. I keep hoping that we'll get the +10 food so that I can continue putting down more of these habitation modules. But it's just not happening for me right now. It's just not happening. For right now, we've also got a hospital. People very much like hospitals. This would be a card that I'm not planning on playing for a long time, but I'll hold on to it and keep it in reserve. If your hand starts to get full, what you can do is you can drag and drop things into the garbage bin, and it'll give you +1 science, just in case you're a little bit low on science or whatever. I think we have a lot of tritium. I'm going to trade some of my tritium to bring in nitrates over the next couple turns, I think. Like, we're not really using the tritium anyways, so, like, why not? I'm going to grab all that. So we got 22 support, 3 nitrates, 3 water, and 3 science. And we found +10 food. That's what I was kind of hopefully fishing for. That's why I've been exploring so aggressively, is that we've got a little bit of a food problem until we get this soil thing up and we double our production over here. That's really kind of where we're at. I'm waiting to see if we get the nitrates first or if we get the Donley lab first. I'm just going to play whichever one comes up faster. I believe that's our turn. We've got a CO2 factory that's been given to us by the Terraforming Union on Earth. The CO2 factory, it's an inside your city building that starts producing atmosphere, basically. We can get a composting facility, so we get +1 nitrates per turn for every population in the city. Yes, I think we want that. Yes, I actually think I do kind of want that building. So I'm going to take it. We'll put the composting facility right there. So now we actually have nitrate generation happening, which is fantastic. And then a little bit more nitrates, and I think we'll be golden. So we've got a nitrate up there. I'm going to use the satellite to get it. So there we go. We've got the nitrates that we need in order to get the soil factory down right there. And now we're outputting 6 food per turn. Absolutely gorgeous with that combo right there. Could not be happier. And then we should have more happiness coming on in once I drop another habitation module right there. This actually may be better served being over here because it preserves this grid. And part of me wants to use this to either put a couple options. We can either put more farms in around this and then put in the Donley lab right there. We can put in more population centers and then put in like an entertainment center right there. Really kind of depends. Really sort of depends what we want to do on that spot. The other option is we could put in power grid right here, and then we could put in a frequency whatever that doubles power output. That would also be nice. We don't really have that card right now, but if we did have that card, whoo buddy, that's what I'd be working towards. Let's see if we can explore. Actually, we're not going to explore. We're going to take the 5 power bonus. I just realized how low our power is, so I want to stay on top of that before things get too wild and crazy. We're not really saving for any kind of nitrates at the moment. It's fine. -10 support. Beautiful. Just what I always wanted. Let's see here. We've got an oxygen factory. We've got a eco home. Okay, so the eco home. Oh, it basically just swaps out its cost for science. Okay, and then a food factory. Gotcha. Let's take the eco home, and let's diversify the landscape a little bit right there. There we go. It seems to have taken us net positive, so I'm okay with that. The other thing that we wanted to get down, though, is we need to get the brine electrolyzer down, so I need some titanium. If there's titanium to be had, I need it. There's some titanium right there. Little bit expensive, but I can live with it because it lets us get the brine electrolyzer in. And so the brine electrolyzer, look at that, +8 right there. Look at that, beautiful. I think what we should do is, I honestly think that we should turn this into another farming area that uses entirely water. That way we can double that bonus up to 16 right there, and then we'll just call this place a day. We'll just use this as the foundational location from which we produce all of our food to develop our other locations, and I think that's going to get us right as rain. But we're out of time for right now. This is Terraformers. I hope you guys liked it. It's obviously a pretty laid-back, slow-paced game about just like planning out your economy and deciding what you want to do with the abilities you have on hand. Hopefully you've noticed, like I did, that effectively this is a board game, but in its early access, I'm pretty pleased with it. It's got a slick artistic veneer that looks good. It's got a nice soundtrack. All the sound effects sound good and punchy. I did have a crash or two while I was playing it, unfortunately, so every now and again the game would hang on me, and sometimes it would recover from that hang after like 30 seconds or so, and other times the game would just go down, so there may be some stability that needs to be looked into, but aside from that, I think everything else from the UI to the sound design to the art are right up my alley. And so anyways, if you don't mind, I don't even know if it's specific to my hardware in all honesty, but I played for about 4 hours, and I think it's crashed on me like hard CTD once, and then it's hung on me like 4 or 5 times, but it recovered all those times. And so anyways, say farewell. It's time for us to leave glorious Splatistan. I will see you all next time. Thank you for hanging on out. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day. Thank you for giving me your attention. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope I justified that attention. And I'll see y'all tomorrow with something hot and fresh off the indie skillet. Bye, everybody.